Well, ladies and gentlemen, what an exciting show I have for you today. But before we get on to the main video of the day, can I yet again remind you, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. And if you'd like to support the work I do here, you're welcome to buy me a coffee. The link is in the description box below. So let's actually get on to the first news story of today. And that is, there appears to be a video circulating around some changes to the private security regulations. And the allegation is that basically the government is attempting to strip security officers of their firearm. Now, I must be honest to say that it has been alleged that there has been an amendment proposed to the private security industry regulations in the government gazette. And apparently this was made on the 28th of March. But I've got to say, I've been looking for this and I can't actually find it. So it is possible that I just haven't found it. But in any case, I have seen some of the narrative around it, which seeks to explain what the regulations actually attempt to do. Now, I haven't actually read the regulations, so please understand, I can't actually fact check this at this point in time. But some of the regulations at the moment effectively want to say that they want to govern how private security officers are given a firearm. And if you understand that the way that the firearms are basically authorized to be given for use to private security, you'll also understand that the rules are kind of quite lax and that the individual isn't licensed to that firearm. They're given a competency to carry a firearm, but the actual firearm itself is licensed to the security company. And there are certain security companies that will give private security what they class as high caliber rifles. Now, I'm not sure how I would class a high caliber rifle, apart from a 50 BMG, but I think many of these individuals would say, oh, they're carrying AR-15s and somehow 223 is the new high caliber. And that's the same rhetoric that comes out of the US. Now, it does appear that what these regulations are attempting to do is to say that these assault rifles, they're not assault rifles, but anyway, these rifles can't be carried by private security because they look scary. And in typical US fashion, you don't want scary guns to be basically on the streets, making people feel slightly uncomfortable. Is that actually the case? No, I don't actually think so. I think the real issue here is that a lot of these firearms do get stolen from private security officers. These officers themselves are often targeted because they are carrying these rifles. And so inevitably these officers get killed. I know where I live, individuals have been targeted and shot for their firearms and they land up on the streets for crime. Now, sir, it does further say, and obviously their own press release on these supposed regulations, that there are going to be exemptions to the use of these firearms, and that will be people doing things like cash in transit and so forth. Now, their idea behind this is that they're wanting to just firm up how an individual gets issued with a firearm to ensure that they're safe. That doesn't mean that they're going to be stopped from carrying a firearm. It just means that they want to firm up how they get issued a firearm and also under what circumstances they can use a firearm. Remembering that they're not actually law enforcement. They're individuals doing security through a private contract between two individuals. So I can kind of understand what the press release from Cyrus says they're doing. Whether or not these regulations are going to damage the private security sector in the way that it's been claimed, I can't yet confirm. But what I would say if you've seen the video, please don't panic yet. We think we need to actually see the draft regulations. And at this point in time, as of today, I can't find them. So then let's go on to the shenanigans of yesterday. Now, I did do a video around the budget. And if you haven't already watched that, please go watch the video. It's important to understand that the budget was basically not supported by the MK party, the EFF and the DA. And according to the ANC, that those three parties were now the new doomsday coalition. But there's actually one party specifically that I want to focus on, and that's actually Action SA and specifically Herman Mashaba. Now, before I do get on to what I want to say about them, I want you to watch this video.
Of my life to work towards the removal of the ANC in a peaceful manner. I'm committed to that project and I'm not apologizing to anyone. And Action SA will not work with the ANC under no circumstances. Actioners, I know this is not my party. I happen to be the leader of this party now. For as long as I'm your leader, and you decide one day you want to work with a criminal organization called ANC, please ask me to step aside, because I will never accept working with criminals. And why I will not work with criminals? I always tell people I was born in poverty, in a childhood household, raised by my sister, 13 years my senior. So I know how to go to school in winter without shoes. I know how to go to school without having anything to eat. But God gave me the wisdom when I turned 22 to change the course of my life. And 40 years later, here I am. I'm ready to really save you people of my country.
Now, it's important to recognize this video because we have a problem with South African politicians, and that is, to be frank, they're just liars. Now, as you can see from this video, Herman Mashaba said the Action SA would never, ever, ever work with a criminal organization known as the ANC. And yet here it is working with the ANC and attempting to say that they basically will support the ANC's budget. In fact, not only have they supported the ANC's budget, they actually claimed a victory against the DA, who they claimed wanted to destroy South Africa for not adopting the budget. But you see, this is Action SA all over. And why do I say that? Well, because apparently, according to Action SA, when they were on the opposition benches and the DA was part of the coalition, if you want to call it that, or the GNU, they said that basically they accused the DA of being two-faced. And they said the reason that the DA was two-faced is because they sat there taking ministerial positions. They weren't all ministerial positions. The DA also got given a number of deputy minister positions. And they said, well, you're now part of the very thing you claim to want to dismantle. And that was in a specific reference to the DA's desire to shrink the bloated cabinet. And apparently, according to Herman Mashaba, all of a sudden, when they were in the cabinet, they didn't want to shrink it anymore. And so Herman said in the public, to the media, that Action SA would now take up the mantle of shrinking the cabinet, which apparently was what the DA was doing before the DA got too comfortable being in government. But now that Herman Mashaba has supported the ANC and got embedded with the ANC, despite saying he'll never be involved with the ANC, he now says that actually Action SA has individuals who can serve as ministers. And if asked to serve as a minister, Herman will serve as a minister. It's important to understand that because following the elections, Action SA obviously got some MP positions. And those MP positions, by right, should have gone to the typical individuals, Herman Mashaba, Michael Beaumont, and so forth. But Herman declined the opportunity to serve as an MP. He said that he wanted to remain the leader of the party, but he didn't actually want to serve as an MP. Basically, and being an MP was beneath him. He didn't want to do that. Now, that becomes very interesting because apparently an MP is beneath him, but being a government minister isn't. It's a very bizarre approach to take. Now, I say it's a very bizarre position to take, but I don't really think it's bizarre in the context of Action SA at all. It's just their MO. They cannot help themselves. Everything they say is a direct contradiction, and to be frank, I don't believe they're truthful with their electorate. And I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. If you vote for Action SA, you are an idiot. Action SA is not a good party. They are two-faced and they are liars. We'll never be involved with the ANC. Well, they're involved with the ANC in Swane. They're involved now with the ANC in terms of adopting their budget. They're involved with the ANC when they have the possibility of going into government with the ANC, despite saying they'll never do that. They say the ANC is a criminal organization and we will never be partners with them. The government cabinet is too big, it's bloated, we need to shrink it. Oh wait, we can have a job in it? Yeah, we'll take that position. Appears to me like the whole goal of Action SA is basically to sabotage the DA. They claim that their whole goal is to unseat the ANC from power. But that rhetoric they are not consistent with. However, their consistent hatred of the DA, very consistent. Now, talking of individuals that don't actually get along, the PA and the DA are also not exactly getting along because following the budget yesterday, John Steenhuisen tweeted that he would basically be taking the budget to the Cape Town High Court in order to challenge it. And a response to that was given by Gator McKenzie, who said, please also file your resignation papers at the same time. So yet again, we're seeing the PA and the DA falling out in the public area. Now, I've got to say this kind of was unnecessary. Probably didn't have to do that on the public profile gating. Your choice. Not exactly a good look. And on to the final news story. And this is the final news story that Afriforum says that it is going to be calling for international sanctions to be placed against Julius Malema directly. In fact, Afriforum had this to say.
Afriforum is now starting with a process to request governments internationally to impose punitive actions against Julius Malema and those that make themselves guilty of human rights violations by chanting "Kill the Boer." We also request governments to use diplomatic channels to request the South African government to condemn these calls for the murder of Afrikaners and farmers unconditionally. This international action is needed, of course, because the South African Constitutional Court found that the Constitution does not protect Afrikaners and farmers against these calls for violence against them. In this campaign, we will also spread a dossier that is being drawn up by our legal team. This dossier would show that how Julius Malema and his colleagues abuse human rights. Secondly, how they openly support terror organizations. And thirdly, that they are accused of very serious cases of corruption.
Now, why this is interesting is that following the Constitutional Court's declinature that's declining to review the whole hate speech case against Kill the Boer, Afriforum's only real response now is to go to the international community and basically get them to apply sanctions against the individuals that sing it. Now, whether or not you believe that's the best approach to take, it is actually getting international attention. And that's international attention that the parties who like to sing the song don't really want, because the type of individuals who are now taking attention of it are the wrong type of guys. You don't want to annoy them. Now, it's all good and fine to be a firebrand when you're talking to some individuals that could never do anything more than give you a 10 rand or a back rub. But when you're talking against some of the world's elites, yeah, it's not exactly a great time for you. Now, why do I say this? Well, you would have seen that a few days ago I did a video in which I said that Mbulula himself said, why are we still singing this song? Maybe it shouldn't be sung anymore because it doesn't carry any real relevance in the modern South Africa. And here again is another example of politicians lying when they're using rhetoric to the public or the media, because he said that this was no longer necessary. And yet, have a look here. So as you can see, when Mbulula has the opportunity to stand before an audience, well, there he is, singing the very song he says no longer has any relevance, and why are we singing it? I gotta ask you, Mbulula, are you yet again another Action SA where your rhetoric and your ideology is inconsistent? It changes on the wind, because that's exactly how it seems to me. Or is this a sign that you are just basically another populist who addresses any audience in a way that you feel fit? Whatever you think is going to float your boat the best. Anyway, that's just my views. Please do let me know what you think in the comment section below. Until tomorrow, bye.